Heng Leong Cheong is CEO of EcoWorld International. He looks after the business in the UK and wears a number of different hats. He's on the board of the joint ventures with Ballymore at Embassy Gardens, Wardian and London City Island. He's CEO of EcoWorld London, which is a joint venture with Wilmott Dixon, which is delivering projects such as Aberfeldy Village, Verdo at Kew Bridge, which includes Brentford Community Stadium, home of Brentford Football Club. So, Heng, you must be one of the few property companies to appear on a football shirt. Fourth in the Football League Championship at the moment. Could Brentford make it to the Premier League this year?
Well, we're certainly rooting for them, and you're right, Peter. Last year we were shirt sponsors for Brentford Football Club, and I think they came quite close last year as well, stumbling at the final playoffs, I think. And as you mentioned, we're also delivering, or we have actually delivered the 17,000 seater Brentford Community Stadium to them last year. And actually it's really surreal because the first time I set foot on site, probably about 3 years ago, there was nothing there. And they are basically playing competitive matches there already. And hopefully next year they will be playing Premier League matches there. So it really is surreal how much that place has transformed.
Yeah, so it's very much a sort of regeneration project for the area, isn't it? And the housing around the stadium is really taking shape now. So what do you see as the benefits of bringing housing and sport together as you have done at Kew Bridge?
Yeah, I don't think it's specific to sport generally. I think we see the stadium as an amenity. Adds a lot of vibrancy to the scheme which we're delivering. So we don't see ourselves as basically delivering just housing around the football stadium, but the challenge really is actually how do we bring it all together and how do we glue all the different pieces together. We're currently looking at ways that we can generate meanwhile use, for instance, to the place to bring vibrancy to the entire area, even outside of match days. But I think fundamentally, it is an enabler. Housing is an enabler to the delivery of infrastructure. We've seen that, with my previous company, Battersea Power Station, where, it was because of the regeneration of Battersea Power Station, and then, which sort of enables the justification to fund, for instance, the Northern Line extension and all that. And the work that we're doing right now with EcoWorld London, a lot of the schemes that we do are in partnership with local councils, for instance. We've got 2 schemes with where it's in partnership with Westminster City Council, where we basically re-provided 2 brand new leisure centres, and that was enabled by new development, new housing coming in. We've got a framework agreement with council, for instance, Lantern 360, where we're regenerating land which they own, or sites which they own. That enables them to deliver affordable housing, etc. So I think, it's, as I said, I think we can probably adopt the same model across various different things. But I think particularly in today's COVID world where everyone's obviously stuck at home, etc. and all that, I think it's important to see housing schemes or development schemes not just as standalone housing schemes. I think connectivity for schemes, I think, is obviously important, but I think there's no use in today's obviously lockdown environment to be hypothetically 2 hours away from Paris and all that when you can't travel. And I think the football stadium, bringing it back to your question, is something which actually is there. It's an amenity which is there, which people that live there can actually enjoy and sort of make the most out of.
So working in partnership with local boroughs is an important part of your future programme.
Exactly, yes. And we've got a good track record of doing that, as I mentioned, with council as well as Westminster City Council. But we're also very proud of working together with housing associations. For instance, we've got a very substantial joint venture with Poplar Harker on Aberfeldy Village, And we're sort of coming towards the end of phase 3B, and it's been very, very successful. In fact, the partnership won the BHA Partnership Awards last year, I think, which I'm very proud of, because that I think is reflects basically how well the partnership has gone. But I see that as start of something which is even bigger, because right now we're looking at master planning the future phases for Aberfeldy Village, or Oxbow as we now call it. And that for me is very, very exciting. And I think the scale of it is important, because that enables us to basically bring our DNA, the eco DNA, to it. And that is, and the objective of basically creating places where people want to live in, as we just discussed. But also with scale, we can basically contribute back to society and to the various local communities. So at Aberfeldy Village, this is joint venture that I was talking about, because we're planning for future phases for the joint venture. We're thinking, actually, in the meantime, how do we generate meanwhile use for what's there existing? And Aberfeldy Street, I think, is a perfect example where we've done just that. We've sort of brought in street art. We've worked together with the London Mural Company, basically, to reinvigorate Aberfeldy Street. But looking at the local context and borrowing from the local context, that part of Poplar, basically, there's a very strong Bangladeshi community and all that. So the street art and the murals and all that have been inspired by Kanta, which is basically Bangladeshi patchwork. And the whole idea is basically you recycle material and you generate something which is upcycling, I suppose, is probably the trendy word for that. So, those are the sorts of things that we can do, with scale, which we're not necessarily, possible if it's basically this standalone housing project with no other use around it.
So, as an overseas investor in London, how do you view London as we emerge from the pandemic? And what are the sort of things that you're looking for when seeking locations for new developments?
We are part of EcoWorld International, which is obviously headquartered in Malaysia. We're listed on the Malaysian Stock Exchange. But I think it's important to note that actually, in terms of the number of people that we employ under the EcoWorld International Group, we employ more people in the UK than we do in Malaysia. We've got about 150, 160 people here, which is significantly bigger than our presence in Australia and our presence in Malaysia. So firstly, we're very committed basically to London and the UK. And EcoWorld London, for us, we see it as a platform that hopefully will be able to generate significant growth over the medium to long term. And as I explained as well, we work very closely with local partners who are also very committed to London and the UK. Not just the local councils and the housing associations, but our joint ventures with Ballymore and Wilmott Dixon, who are obviously quite well known in the UK in the UK scene as well. So for us, even though we're funded by Malaysian shareholders, we very much see ourselves as basically a local developer, hence the EcoWorld London. In terms of COVID, we talked a little bit about how we think that people will actually revisit or sort of get priorities in terms of what they look for in terms of housing, etc., and all that, which is obviously something that we're very we're alive to, particularly when coming up with schemes and working out what to deliver. But COVID, and before COVID, obviously there was Brexit, right? We see those as I suppose we see it as challenges, obviously, but we also see it as an opportunity. And last year, towards the end of last year, I presented to the board of EcoWorld London a strategic plan, which basically sets out our ambitions over the next 5 to 8 years. And it's got, as I said, very ambitious growth targets to really grow our pipeline, our presence in London. And the end goal in terms of what good looks like is we want to be the top mid-size residential developer for both open market sale and BTR. And it's important to, I suppose, emphasize the point mid-size, because we feel that that sort of allows us to be, we always adopt a bottom-up approach and the first principle approach every single time we look at schemes and all that. And we think that there's probably a limit as to, you know, how much we can do without sort of without compromising that principle when it comes to conceiving schemes. But, you know, COVID and Brexit and all that, even though it's very disruptive, we see it as an opportunity. And as part of that strategic plan, as I said, we've got very ambitious growth targets, which basically requires us obviously to also acquire new sites. For us, we're hopeful that you know, we'll be able to acquire a few sites you know, in the near future.
Great. Well, Heng, thank you very much for giving me time in your busy schedule, and it's great to hear such confidence in the future of London. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time, Peter. Very good talking to you.